Philadelphia 76ers star Joel Embiid drops 70 on Spurs and win. Philadelphia, Joel Embiid scored 70 points to surpass Wilt Chamberlain and set a new franchise record for points in a single game, leading the Philadelphia 76ers to a 133-123 victory over the San Antonio Spurs and rookie Victor Wembanyama on Monday at Wells Fargo Center. Embiid's final line, 70 points, 18 rebounds and 5 assists, had never been seen before in NBA history, according to ESPN Stats and Information research. In addition to setting a new personal and franchise record, Embiid also surpassed Milwaukee Bucks big man Giannis Antetokounmpo's 64 points against the Indiana Pacers for the most points in a single game by a player this season. Embiid broke the team record with a coast-to-coast driving layup late in the fourth quarter, capping off a legendary performance that saw him score 24 points in the first quarter and 34 in the first half and match his previous career high of 59 points, set last year against the Utah Jazz, in 3 quarters after ending the third with a step-back three-pointer. At that point, the only question remaining was whether Embiid would return at all in the fourth or spend the final 12 minutes on the bench, as he has several other times this season in blowout victories. San Antonio, however, hung around, led by a stellar 33-point, 7-rebound performance by Wembanyama, and that resulted in a massive ovation when Embiid checked back into the game with 6:38 to go in the contest. Embiid then was immediately fouled by Jeremy Sochan on his first offensive possession of the quarter, making both free throws to set a new career high. The crowd was desperately hoping to see the NBA's reigning MVP make history, to the point where the fans booed Embiid's teammate Daniel House Jr. when House took a corner three-pointer midway through the quarter. Embiid eventually matched Chamberlain's previous franchise record of 68 points with a pair of free throws with 1:57 remaining, before his coast-to-coast layup broke the record. He ended up playing 36 minutes and 38 seconds. It was a performance that made Hall of Fame coach Greg Popovich's pregame news conference seem prophetic. Asked about whether Sochan might be able to help Wembanyama guard Embiid, the Spurs coach simply said, "I don't think it matters what we do." Minneapolis, Karl-Anthony Towns scored a franchise record 62 points, including 44 in the first half. But the Charlotte Hornets erased an 18-point deficit and stunned the Minnesota Timberwolves 128-125 on Monday night. Towns topped his previous career best of 60, which was also the Minnesota record. However, Towns managed just 4 points on 2-4-10 shooting in the fourth quarter when the Timberwolves were outscored 36-18. He thought he was fouled on a drive to the basket in the closing seconds and Minnesota trailing by 1, then was short on a 3-point attempt on the final possession. Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch lit into his team after the game, calling it an absolute disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball. Finch went on to criticize how the Timberwolves responded to Towns' hot start, saying they stopped looking to make the right play. "I mean, there's lots of times when, just because you scored 2 or 3 or 4 points in a row, or baskets in a row, obviously we're going to try to feed a hot hand, look for a hot hand, but at some point we got to get back to making the right play. We got to get back to doing the right things," Finch said. Towns finished 21-4-35 from the floor, including 10-4-15 from three-point range, and now owns the top 3 scoring outputs in the Wolves' 35-year history. The Wolves ran an isolation look for Towns with 12 seconds left, but Leaky Black blocked his driving layup attempt and then hit a pair of free throws at the other end. Towns' desperation 3 inside the final second ensured the 21st time in NBA history a player has scored 60 or more points in a loss. "We've got to find a way to win," said Towns, adding that he didn't see any silver lining even after scoring 62. "It's about winning the game." In the first half, Towns was 14-4-17 from the field and 8 of 9 from three-point range as the Wolves took a 69-64 lead. The 8 three-pointers in a half were too shy of the NBA record. The NBA record for points in a first half is shared by David Thompson and George Gervin with 53. Miles Bridges scored 28 points and Brandon Miller had 27 for the Hornets, who had lost 7 of their past 8 games and had the Eastern Conference's third-worst mark entering Monday. Minnesota, meanwhile, has now lost 2 games in a row for just the second time this season. "Like I said, there's a lot of ways to be immature," Finch said. "There's always a lot of ways to be immature. There was a lot of immature performances here throughout the roster. We totally disrespected the game, ourselves, and we got exactly what we deserved. San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors held their first team practice since the death of assistant coach Dejan Milojevic on Monday as the franchise looks to turn the page and refocus on basketball. It's hard to describe that last week, Warriors coach Steve Kerr said. Heartbreaking. Devastating. It's the saddest thing I have ever been a part of in the NBA. The last 5 days have been full of the shock, the emotion, the extreme outpouring of love from all over the world. The Warriors began their Monday session by watching a nearly 15-minute tribute coming out of Belgrade, Milojevic's hometown. A tribute game was being held between Megabasket, the team Milojevic coached for, and Partizan, the team which he starred for as a player. Players wore warm-up shirts that read, "Sometimes even the biggest fighters leave us." A massive banner of Milojevic's face was displayed in the stands. The arena was standing room only. "I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like that pre-game dedication," Kerr said. "I think we got a better sense of what Decky meant to his countrymen. Of course, how much he meant to us and his family, Natasha, Masha, and Nikola." After watching the footage from Serbia, the team took an hour to regroup and settle their emotions before beginning the practice portion of the afternoon. It was the first time they had been on the court as a team since Milojevic died suddenly last Wednesday after suffering a heart attack Tuesday night at a team dinner in Salt Lake City. Nearly 75% of the players, coaches, and staff members who were on the road trip with the Warriors were in attendance at the dinner and witnessed what was described as a traumatizing scene. Kerr said counseling has been made available to everyone within the organization, but especially those who were at the dinner. "Today it was definitely a little different," Warriors center Kevin Looney said. Looney had worked closely with Milojevic since the coach's arrival in 2021. Milojevic was brought to Golden State specifically to work with the team's big men. During the free shooting portion to close practice, Looney was working with player development coach Anthony Vereen at a different basket than normal. "You've got to come to work and got to get a whole new routine. There's a whole different vibe to practice not having him here. He was an integral part of our team, an integral part of my day-to-day routine. It's definitely different." Hours after Milojevic's death, the NBA announced that night's game against the Utah Jazz was postponed. Friday's game against the Dallas Mavericks was also pushed to a later date. Kerr said there was no way the team could have played either of those games following Milojevic's sudden death. But Golden State will resume its season on Wednesday when it hosts the Atlanta Hawks. "I'm looking forward to getting back on the court and trying to get lost in my love for the game," Looney said. "I'll think about all of our memories and the teachings that he gave me and try to honor him that way. That's the only way I know how." The Warriors are finalizing their plans on how they will honor Milojevic, not just ahead of Wednesday's game, but for the remainder of the season. At practice on Monday, Kerr sported a black T-shirt that said "Brat" on it, the Serbian word for brother, and had a small heart with DM in the upper corner. The shirts will also be sent to the other franchises around the association. "Wednesday will be unbelievably emotional," Kerr said. "There is no handbook for this. We will honor Decky the best way we know on Wednesday night. We will be there to play a basketball game. We will find a way to mourn and grieve and play all in the same evening." As Kerr tried to figure out how best to help his team turn the page, he approached team advisor Ron Adams for advice. Adams told Kerr to ask himself, what would Milojevic want the team to do? "I literally could picture Decky smiling, laughing, and saying, 'You motherfuckers need to go win a basketball game,'" Kerr said. "We are going to do everything we can to win, and we're going to enjoy life no matter what." That's who he was and how we're going to continue. Los Angeles, the so-called Battle for LA, will be missing one of its key characters Tuesday. Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James has been ruled out because of left ankle pain, the team announced Monday. The Lakers, 22-22, are number 9 in the Western Conference standings but 2-0 against their city rivals, the LA Clippers, 27-14, the number 4 team in the West. James, 39, is in the midst of the most dominant campaign for a player in his 21st season in NBA history, averaging 24.8 points, 7.4 assists, and 7.2 rebounds. He is shooting 52% from the field and 39.1% from three. It will be James' 5th missed game this season. The Lakers have gone 2-2 without him so far. Cleveland. Cavaliers rookie forward Emoni Bates was suspended 2 games without pay by the NBA G League on Monday for going into the stands after his game with the Cleveland Charge over the weekend. G League President Sharif Abdurrahim announced that Bates and Charge teammate Gabe Osabuohian were suspended for entering the spectator stands after the game Saturday in Alabama. The league did not provide any other details about the incident, which happened after the Charge's 126-105 loss to the Birmingham Squadron. Bates and Osabuohien will begin serving their suspensions Monday night when the Charge visit the Osceola Magic, League said. The Cavaliers selected Bates in the second round of last year's NBA draft. The 19-year-old, who had been touted as one of the nation's top prospects since his early teens, has appeared in 10 games for the Cavs and averaged 1.8 points in 7.6 minutes. Bates spent one season at Memphis before transferring to Eastern Michigan in his hometown of Ypsilanti. He was suspended last season after an arrest on felony gun charges that were later dismissed. Once he was reinstated, 6'9", Bates averaged 19.2 points and 5.8 rebounds for Eastern Michigan, and the Cavs were intrigued enough by his potential to select him with the number 49 pick. Atlanta Hawks guard Trae Young was diagnosed with a concussion after leaving Saturday's 116-95 loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the fourth quarter. Young left the game with 8:43 remaining after taking a charge from the Cavaliers' Isaac Okoro and getting hit in the face by an inadvertent elbow. Young stayed on the court for a few minutes, walked back to the locker room, and did not return. There is no timetable for Young's return. He must go through the league's concussion protocol to ensure he is symptom-free before resuming basketball activities. He had sat out Friday's game against the Miami Heat with an illness. Young, who scored 15 points in the loss to the Cavaliers, is averaging 26.9 points per game and is second in the league with 10.8 assists per game. On the 18th anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81-point game, Joel Embiid and Karl-Anthony Towns put together two of the highest scoring performances in NBA history. Embiid finished with 70 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists against the San Antonio Spurs, the most points ever scored against the franchise. Towns finished with 62 points and 8 rebounds against the Charlotte Hornets. The two are the fourth pair of players to each score 60 points on the same day, and the first since David Thompson, 73, and George Gervin, 63, in 1978. Embiid's 70 points set a 76ers single-game scoring record, surpassing the old mark, which had stood since December 1967, making it the third oldest standing franchise scoring record. Embiid became the first player with 70 points and 15 rebounds in a game since Wilt Chamberlain in 1963 and third to do so. He is also the first player in NBA history with 70 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Towns became the seventh player in NBA history with multiple career 60-point games. His 62 points are a Timberwolves single-game scoring record. Here are the key numbers behind Embiid's record-breaking performance. 1. Embiid kept it clean during his high-scoring game, recording just one turnover. He passed Carmelo Anthony, 62, for the most points in a game with one turnover or none since individual turnovers became